Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mac. Boys and girls, the Mac is back. For those of you who follow me on Twitter, you probably already know I was doing a little time. I was on the run from the long arm of the law. No, I was just in Twitter suspension for a while. I got suspended because of this tweet right here. Yeah, I was reminding CNN that other families have also used Camp David because they were complaining about Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner's use of Camp David for a private event of which they were paying for everything. I gave them this friendly reminder and it sent me right into Twitter suspension. But upon appeal to the Supreme Court, and by the Supreme Court, I mean Twitter support, they finally decided that, hey, maybe we were a little hard on brah. And I got my Twitter back. So I'm back, and I want to talk about some things today. I want to talk about what we had just happened yesterday, of course, which was the death of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. So let's do it. So as most of you already know, head of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, but you can just call him Al, was killed in a U.S. raid. Indeed, big news. And POTUS said yesterday that he had some big news and then later followed it up with a press conference, a very revealing press conference. Some of it I want to share with you today. I want to add a little commentary along the way. I found a few different interesting talking points in regards to this, and I think that this is big news for a few different reasons. So I want to give a little bit of that perspective, but indeed big news. So let's go to the speech and break it down, but we ain't trying to watch the whole thing. I made you a montage.
Oh, it's a montage, cause we ain't trying to watch the whole dang thing now.
Last night, the United States brought the world's #1 terrorist leader to justice. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He was the founder and leader of ISIS, the most ruthless and violent terror organization anywhere in the world. He died after running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. The compound had been cleared by this time, with people either surrendering or being shot and killed. 11 young children were moved out of the house and are uninjured. The only ones remaining were Baghdadi in the tunnel, and he had dragged 3 of his young children with him. They were led to certain death. He reached the end of the tunnel as our dogs chased him down. He ignited his vest, killing himself and the 3 children.
Okay, so big story here, and although we have a relatively happy ending for now, it's quite sad to think that this man dragged 3 of his own children and chose their fate for them. At the same time, it's nice to know that 11 children were removed from the compound and hopefully will be safe. But there's a lot to unpack here. And here's this guy, al-Baghdadi, who was incredibly influential. President Trump even argued in this conference here that he thought even more so than Osama bin Laden. Now, that's debatable, of course, but either way, a big deal. This guy was responsible for the growth and cultivating of which we're calling ISIS around the world. And this guy had a lot of coin that was supporting him. So big deal for quite a few reasons, but of course an incredibly sad story about his own children and definitely a violent end. I thought it was very interesting the way President Trump spoke. I thought it was quite presidential, and he made the point to really point out that how cowardly this guy died, because people will be watching, and there's a lot of politics being played here, but interesting stuff. And this is the first time that he mentions the dogs. Now, in this particular case, he mentioned multiple dogs, even though one ends up being injured. But I want to turn your attention to the fact that he kept calling attention to the dogs.
Our reach is very long. As you know, last month we announced that we recently killed Hamza bin Laden.
So you may remember back in 2011 on the raid in Pakistan on Osama bin Laden that they had also killed one of the sons, and they initially reported it to be Hamza. That was coming from John Brennan himself. He went out and did a little press conference himself. Now later they changed that and said that it was his brother Khaled to have been killed, and it was Pakistani intel that said that one of the sons got away, and evidently that would have been Hamza. Now Pakistani intel has also stated that they had captured him and his half-brother Saad. This was back in the day also. So it's hard to really know what happened when this guy died. I just want to point that out. I want to point out that it had been reported initially by John Brennan, and that had been changed. But there are a couple of brothers. There's Omar, there's Khaled, and there's Hamza. And Omar has really been the only one that's come out saying that he didn't agree with his father. But as far as Khaled and Hamza, they've both been pretty militant. And Hamza has been largely regarded as the guy sort of taking over.
Baghdadi and the losers who worked for him, and losers they are. They had no idea what they were getting into. In some cases, they were very frightened puppies. In other cases, they were hardcore killers.
Wait a minute. Did you just say frightened puppies?
Baghdadi was vicious and violent, and he died in a vicious and violent way as a coward, running and crying. This raid was impeccable and could only have taken place with the acknowledgement and help of certain other nations and people. I want to thank the nations of Russia, Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, and I also want to thank the Syrian Kurds for certain support they were able to give us. And finally, we saw that he was here, held up here. We knew something about the compound. We knew it had tunnels. The tunnels were dead end for the most part. There was one we think that wasn't, but we had that covered too, just in case.
Got a flashback of signs, yeah, take you back, yeah.
Taking you back to April of 2018. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know there's a couple of topics I've been harping on for a while. Number one, tunnels. Number two, dogs, and this is why. Let me start you off with 1084 here. We're not going to go through all of this. If you want to get more detail in regards to this particular time and situation, I suggest going to my video from April 9th, 2018, usually the next day after the Q post here. But this is Q post 1084, and Q was responding to an anon who had said POTUS hunkering down today, and Q mentioned a situation room, and we had a situation in Syria going on back then, if you'll remember. And here in 1086 here, Q said no name being John McCain in Syria. Timeline, purpose, who attended, no name, panic, health cover, fast. And that's when we really started to realize that his health was going to deteriorate. And of course, he did end up dying. He died on Dog Day. How about that? But here's where I want to take you to 1088. And there's our boy right there, Senator McCain, number 3. And who's behind him but Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. All right. So if you want to know more about some of these other guys, I tried to go into them in the video on the 9th. From 2018, but I do want to point out that Muaz Mustafa here from the Syrian Emergency Task Force, also an important guy. This guy worked in the U.S. House for a while. He was a former footballer, being soccer, football, and he's got a lot of connections to Canada, things like that. I'd highly suggest watching the video. But as I mentioned back then, we were talking about spider webs, and you can see there's kind of these spider web looking thingies behind them. You can see it better here. Somebody highlighted it, and Q had actually confirmed what we had suspected, was that even though this was, you can't see it here, it said in the Arabic above though, but this was like a welcoming center. And this was actually showing people that there was a webwork of tunnels here, and Q was acknowledging that. Even though it doesn't look exactly like spider webs, that was sort of the meaning that they were wanting to show people who actually knew how to read that there was a network of tunnels that could likely be accessed here. And of course, Trump was just talking about how he knew about these tunnels, likely because of John McCain and Abu Bakr himself. How ironic. Q says location, exact location. And let me just take you to his next response here. Pictures leaked for this very moment. Who, what is not pictured? Well, we were talking about the contractors that were with them, Special Forces contractors, whether it were one of Eric Prince's groups, formerly Blackwater. I don't know what they're calling themselves now. They've kind of broken off into different groups, but somebody needed to accompany McCain, right? What was delivered? Well, all kinds of things were delivered. Missiles were delivered. Money was delivered. All kinds of things were being delivered in these tunnels. And I was even speculating back then that human trafficking, because so many of these, remember, northern Syria, this was spilling all the way out into the water towards out, if they want to pump them out towards Cyprus or whatever. But this was worldwide. Smiles, exact location, exact. Buildings E of spiderweb. So we've known about this network for quite some time. And that was the point I wanted to make. And let me just take you to the next post here. 1092, where we saw this picture again, and Q had implied, we love phones. No name, being John McCain, should know better. So likely some of this info came from John McCain's phone himself.
And we watched it so clearly.
How did you watch this?
Well, I don't want to say how, but we had absolutely perfect, as though you were watching a movie.
Just like a movie. Indeed, I think many of you would agree it's starting to feel that way, especially as of late. For those of you not catching the reference, QAnon has also referenced watching a movie time and time again. I just typed in on QMap here the search word movie, and you can see all the different times it has come up. We're not going to cover all of these, but you can see it highlighted in red here. But indeed, QAnon has been talking about watching a movie, actors, all of this playing out just like a movie. And like I said, it is playing out just like a movie. And of course, Q plus, being the POTUS, had something to say about his prowess on the interwebs.
You know, these people are very smart. They're not into the use of cell phones anymore. They're very technically brilliant. You know, they use the internet better than almost anybody in the world, perhaps other than Donald Trump. They should see how he died. He didn't die a hero. He died a coward. Crying, whimpering, screaming, and bringing 3 kids with him to die. Certain death, but many were killed. We lost nobody. Think of that. It's incredible.
And when you told the Russians, your question...
Our dog was hurt, actually. The canine was hurt, went into the tunnel, but we lost nobody.
There it is again. Now, I want to point out he thought about it for a second and made sure to bring it up. Of course, it's the right thing to do anyway, even if it were a service dog just being injured. I think that's a classy thing to do. But knowing what we know about all these dog references over the last couple years, and much of this started, remember, with Senator McCain, who died on Dog Day. Now, I don't have enough time to go through this or explain it to you or even try to prove it to you or anything like that. There's people that either love my ideas or hate them, but the fact of the matter is that everyone seems to be bringing it up, and we're going right back to all this dog discussion. I will leave you the thread with all my videos covering that, but unless you've seen those videos, don't come at me. Let's move on.
And that was to notify you guys that you have something big this morning, so you wouldn't be out playing golf or tennis or otherwise being indisposed.
Trump has to be loving this for so many reasons, and I can't say I blame him considering what he has endured. But that to me looked like a direct shot to all the haters who have complained about all his time on the golf course. I thought it was absolutely beautiful, and like I said, he has to really be enjoying himself in this moment.
We want to be home. I want our soldiers home or fighting something that's meaningful. I'll tell you who loves us being there. Russia and China. Because while they build their military, we're depleting our military there. So Russia loves us being there. Now, Russia likes us being there for 2 reasons. Because we kill ISIS, we kill terrorists, and they're very close to Russia. We're 8,000 miles away.
Not only are both of those things true, but this is super beautiful in the fact that to all the people who have claimed that he was a puppet of Russia, he just clearly demonstrated here that he is putting them in charge and putting their feet to the fire in this situation. So I find it very, very hard to continue to critique him on that particular case. Also, this is a in your face to Tulsi Gabbard, who basically said he was a B word, right? In regards to this situation, he basically shows them exactly what's up. And the most important part is he's bringing troops home, which is what we all really do want. It's what most Democrats want. I think it's what most Americans truly, truly want. So again, win-win and in your face to all the haters in all directions.
Yeah, we thought for 3 days this is what was going to happen. It was actually, look, nobody was even hurt. Our canine, as I call it a dog, a beautiful dog, a talented dog, was injured and brought back. But we had no soldier injured.
Sounds a little bit like an in your face to some my haters. Yeah!
Baghdadi apparently had been in bad health for some time. Was there any indication of that? Or
Well, we don't know that, but he was the last one out, and his people had either been killed, which there were many, or gave up and came out. Because with the 11 children that came out, we were able to do that. We don't know if they were his children. They might have been. But as I said, 3 died in the tunnel. And the tunnel collapsed with the explosion. But you had other fighters coming out also. And they're being brought back. They're right now, we have them imprisoned.
So there's a little bit of the skinny right there. I imagine we're going to get more press conferences, in particular with some of our military personnel over the next 72 hours. So it should be interesting to find out how this all played out. But let me just have POTUS sum it up for you.
I'm writing a book. World Trade Center had not come down. I think it was about, if you check, it was about a year before the World Trade Center came down. And I'm saying to people, take out Osama bin Laden, that nobody ever heard of. Nobody ever heard of. I mean, al-Baghdadi, everybody hears because he's built this monster for a long time. But nobody ever heard of Osama bin Laden until really the World Trade Center. But about a year, you'll have to check it, a year and a half before the World Trade Center came down, the book came out. I was talking about Osama bin Laden. I said, you have to kill him. You have to take him out. Nobody listened to me. He was an animal. And he was a gutless animal. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
So there you go. Like I said, a massive win for President Trump on so many fronts. He really addresses so many haters in this move and in this win. Now, it's very, very possible this could have happened a long time ago, and they've been holding this in their back pocket for the sake of kind of showing this, pulling this out at the right time, letting everybody get real hawkish on this situation, only to show that that was the case. I don't know. It does seem like there was actual activity out there, so it could have just been kismet timing, and maybe they were just ready to pull the trigger. But there's a lot of possibilities here. But either way, it's a big, big win for President Trump, and Democrats hate that, as you can see. They say here on CNN, President Trump says the White House didn't inform some key Democrats about the raid resulting in the death of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Well, I didn't know that they had to let you know about that. The move to not make notable leaders aware goes against the usual tradition for such high-profile operations. And oddly enough, they've got Nancy Pants Pelosi pictured right there, who just recently took a trip to Jordan. Did you let anybody know about that trip to Jordan right before all this went down? Nancy? No? Probably not. Anyway, this is absolutely beautiful. So if they were hawkish about the Russia thing, that narrative got to get squashed too, because like I said, President Trump is backing out to hold not only Russia but Turkey responsible for this whole situation, which is really essentially what we want. Like you said, they've been fighting out there for so long. There's no real reason for us to be out there. Now, it's been suggested that his announcement of this withdrawal likely could have drawn out people that led them, to this raid. I don't really know. I don't know that we will ever know. And strategically, I can't imagine why anybody would ever want to tell. You wouldn't want to give that sort of thing away. So we can only speculate. But either way, it's a win for the Hawks on Russia. Like I said, it's in your face to Tulsi Gabbard, who was particularly thinking that he was going to fold on this. And we're getting the desired result that we would really want. This is the best thing that we could probably achieve from this situation. And of course, that doesn't make Democrats happy. How does Lindsey Graham feel about this?
I think last night the best of America confronted the worst of mankind, and the good guys won. The good guys and the good gals won. The dog, trying to find out the name of the dog. Pray for the dog. It was severely injured, but it's just reminds me of the team concept of the military.
Yeah, he seems really concerned about the dog for some reason. Wants to know who the dog is and how the dog is. Yeah. Well, look, I'm a dog lover, so of course I will be concerned about the dog too, and hopefully we'll get some good news about the dog. But again, there's that dog reference again, and it seems like much more of a dog whistle to me. Lindsey Graham seems to want to know who the dog is and how the dog is. Seems really concerned about the dog. Seems really concerned in general. Ever since Durham announced that he was launching a criminal investigation, he's gotten really, really nervous. Now, he came out and said all the right things, but let's not forget he was essentially a lapdog of McCain. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that there was quite a bit of involvement in regards to Syria, and also in regards to the illegal FISA warrants, which will come out pretty soon too, hopefully with this IG report. But either way, like I said, and you can see it right there in his eyes and his body language, it doesn't take an expert to notice that it just doesn't sync up with what he's saying. He's saying all the proper things, but seems incredibly nervous, and he seems incredibly interested in finding out what's up with the dog. So we've got his reaction. We've got Democrats' reaction. All we need now is a knucklehead actress. Don't worry, found one. Jamie Lee Curtis. She's livid. She's also concerned about the dog. He may have died a coward at real Donald Trump, but all living things suffer when they are blown up. I don't know if the dog was blown up. The dog was injured, but we don't know if the dog was blown up. We don't know that. Anyone who has experienced warfare, unlike yourself, would know that. And Jamie Lee Curtis would know. After all, she's experienced warfare. She was in A Fish Called Wanda and Beverly Hills, Chihuahua. War is brutal. Dogs are brave, bold, loyal, loving, and healing. They indeed are. Jamie Lee Curtis is not. Looks like Admiral James Winnefeld is also concerned about the dog. References telling Marge Brennan on Face the Nation that he's worried about Trump's piling on by describing al-Baghdadi as a dog. This audio is going to be a little rough. Check it out.
The president also said in his remarks that he planned or wanted to release some video of those last few moments of Baghdadi's life that he repeatedly characterized, called him a dog, whimpering, crying. He wanted ISIS's followers to see him like that.
Margaret, this is
Would you
piling
advise
on.
this?
This is piling on. The one part of the president's remarks that did bother me was this continual piling on of humiliation. A little bit of that is appropriate, but you're sending a signal to some of his followers around the world that could cause them to lash out possibly more harshly in the wake of this.
You don't want a locker room kind of feel to this, right? And that was the one thing we worked really hard on after the bin Laden raid, is don't make those kind of statements.
All right, after the bin Laden raid, it looks like some of them got away, and we were never really sure that the bin Laden raid ever was that successful in the first place. Hint, hint, wink, wink. And this guy was a dog. This guy dragged 3 of his children to death with him like a dog. No, not like a dog. Dogs are cooler than that. Dogs never would have done that. So describing al-Baghdadi as a dog was, to me, a dog whistle. It sounds to me like they're all referencing dogs as dog whistles. We all know dogs to be loyal. We all know dogs to be honorable animals. And it just seems like they're making a real big deal out of this. This guy was the head of ISIS. This guy literally slaughtered his own wife and kids. So, you know, calling somebody a dog, although it's really more offensive to dogs than anything. But the fact of the matter is that Trump, like I said earlier on in the video, was definitely sending a message. This is cultural. They know it too, and that's exactly why they're feigning like they're offended. The fact of the matter is that they were taking away face. Remember, this is all about the Middle East. It's a completely different culture out there. You call somebody out like this, you are showing them an ultimate disrespect. But it works. And the reason why it works is because all those young little knuckleheads that are trying to get radicalized or not really sure what to do with their lives, they're going to see something like this and they're going to think, well, maybe I'm not so sure. And it does have an effect. It was effective. They know it. Trump knows it. I know it. Now you know it too. Here's an interesting update from Elant News. SDF commander confirms Abu al-Hassan al-Muhajir, ISIS spokesman and right-hand man of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, has been targeted and killed in the village of Ain al-Baida near Jarablus in a joint operation between the U.S. military and SDF. And down here's a little bit of the video there. There's not much there, just a little bit of a fire off in the distance. Says local reports that the ISIS spokesman was traveling in a vehicle near Jarablus when it was struck by coalition warplanes. So we're not really sure if those were Turkish warplanes, American warplanes, just coalition warplanes. But it says down here 3 airstrikes are reported to have hit the vehicle carrying the ISIS spokesperson. It was traveling in an area controlled by Euphrates Shield forces, and those are Turkish military. So not really sure who it was, but it looks like they are making this a high priority just in time here as all the criticism is coming in. So like I said, either we found some really great intel that we've either been sitting on for the right moment or this was the right moment to strike. But either way, Trump is definitely making a statement and the deep state is a little unhappy. It's in the deep state who are howling and moaning right now about Syria, simultaneously praising. So is POTUS creating a dog whistle to the deep state while they howl and moan about his actions in Syria, simultaneously praising the bravery, loyalty, and courage of dogs, that of which we all know, and at the same time clowning these Muslim extremists who tend to hate dogs. Now, I just want to point out, I don't think that's not all Muslims. Not all Muslims hate dogs, but extremist ones tend to, and that's seriously offensive to them. So, was he clowning and praising at the same time? You tell me. But that's all I got for you for now. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who do that already. I appreciate it so much, especially in this day and age when social media keeps knocking me offline. Yep, happens. What are you going to do about it? All my alternate links are down below. If you'd want to join one of those in case I do get bumped, you can find another one. And hopefully I won't get bumped off of that one. They're all linked down below. Gab, BitChute, Real.video, blah, blah, blah. I'm over at Twitter at IPOT 1776. That's IPOT 1776. That is also the same for Gab, IPOT 1776. If you've got information for me, please email me. My email is down below. Please do not DM me on social media. I don't do that. But if you want to share something on over email, I'm perfectly happy to check out what you've got. And that's down below. My P.O. box is down below if you're old school and want to send me something. Thanks to all of you who do that. I greatly appreciate all your gifts, and I've been taking pictures of them. One of these days, I'm going to make a montage. Yep, that's right. And my Patreon is down below if you'd like to support the channel. All those links are down below. All right, Patriots, this is Sir Patrick Mack. I'm going to see you snarkers on Twitter in just a minute. Until then, stay. Good boy.